We are delighted to have you here. So let me begin by introducing the award winners this year. Begin with the youngest, Atlas. Atlas is an 8th grade student and a climate activist in Turkey. And he's literally hit the social media in a way that is most appealing and most powerful. And he's appeared and taken forward this whole issue of Fridays for the Future into an entirely new country and made it very much part of an international issue. So congratulations to you, Atlas. Next, from my right, if I may put it that way, is Boriana, who's been busy changing the way fashion works. Boriana is one of the Forbes 30 under 30, and her industry is basically fashion, but designer fashion, where it is stitched to your requirements, and it is stitched in a manner which is environmental. Congratulations, Boriana, on what you've achieved and on the award. And then again, next from my right is Blashka. Blashka is working in a space which is again a startup, but this time it's on waste. And she's been an activist working on reducing waste, and she's written about it. In fact, she has a site which has more than 7,000 followers. And she also runs a zero waste restaurant, which I'm going to ask about in Bulgaria, which is her home country. Congratulations, amazing job. And congratulations on also being, of course, one of the prestigious Forbes 30 under 30. And to my extreme right, oh my gosh, he's disappeared again, but Piotr, are you still there? Can you hear us? I call Piotr is from Poland, and I call him Mr. Rivers.
Yes, sorry,
Hi,
I have a field work day today, and my connection is, as you can see, unstable. Yeah. But I hope
your connection is like the peat bog on which you are. You stand in the wrong place, it just goes, right? So it's a bit like that. But Piotr has used his passion for photography and actually brought the issue of rivers to the forefront in Poland. That is his country. He's done a lot to protect some of the most valuable ecosystems in the north of Poland, in the Sandomierz Basin. And thanks to his group and his efforts, more than 110 nature monuments have been established across the country. He's been one of our first WWF River Guardians, and he's now a regional coordinator as well. So congratulations, Piotr, for being one of our amazing young award winners. Let's give them all a big hand in the modern style. That's right. Congratulations, everyone. Alicia, do you want to say a few words about the way in which we're going to carry out the rest of the session, or do you want me to carry on?
I did it at the beginning, Pagan, so okay, you can just take it from here, and just to remind everyone that from now you are invited to write your questions on the chat for our participants for our days, and like this we will be able to give them 1 or 2 questions from the ones that you wrote. So from now on, chat is open.
Okay, so Vasi or Vasilina from Bulgaria, who heads our operations there, is our host today, Vasilina Kavrakova. So she and I are going to be asking you fellows some questions, if you don't mind. So let me just begin with a question for Atlas, which is, in all your work that you've been doing and all the communications, Atlas, what would you say is the major learning that has come to you during this time of your activism?
Yes, thank you very much. And I must say that the lesson I learned is the true lessons can be much bigger than a classroom. Like you said, I'm an 8th grader. Yes, I am. And also we solve problems in exams, but climate crisis is a big problem that we cannot solve in an exam. So we strike for climate by skipping our lessons to learn our lessons. And I also believe I have 2 different key factors to my success. The first is my courage to take this lesson. And the second is when I realized I wasn't alone, I started mobilizing with people like me. And that's it.
Super, super. Vasi, would you want to ask him a question as well?
I'm sorry, Pavan.
Or to any of the others if you want.
Okay, I would like to ask Atlas. First of all, dear awardees, it's really an honor to be with you today. You're really inspirational people and you drive the change. You're the young people who drive change. And my question to you, Atlas, but also to you others later on is, in many countries, like the region I work in, Central and Eastern Europe, and where you come from, we design and implement or plan to implement programs that empower and support youth leaders. So what would be your message to us? What should we be doing to support you and enable you to drive the change, especially in these unprecedented times we live in, because the times are really unprecedented? What would be your message to us, Atlas?
I think that WWF Panda can be made more visible, and we can make bamboo strike signs for climate if they want to strike with us. And for example, the important facts like the wildlife populations, 60% fall in just over 40 years.
Yeah. Yes.
As the Living Planet Index states, can be made more interesting for the youth. And the extinction bells are ringing for the biodiversity in general. So actually, please tell me, how can we help you? Because we are the last generation to reverse the crisis.
Thank you. Great input from you. So be more visible, but also speak your language. This is how I take it. Really bring our data, our knowledge, but speak your language so that we can find the solutions together. I would say it's not us to come with the solutions. It's rather, let's find them together. Thank you.
Super. Now, a question for Boriana. So you started a company which basically provides fashion for the user, basically, to get away from, firstly, the production machinery and its impacts, and secondly, look at the environment more holistically as part of what you deliver. I mean, how are you different from some big company like, Stitch Fix, which is also trying to provide tailor-made items? How are you different? Tell us a bit about this environmental difference that you brought in, the sustainability card.
Let me start by saying that the problem with fashion is not unilateral. It literally is on every single vertical of the value chain, from how we grow the textiles to how we dye them, how we transport them, how we stitch them together, and how we recycle them. And how we produce the clothing, like Stitch Fix, who would do on-demand clothing, this is one of the verticals. And certainly it is very important because taking away mass production already takes a huge amount of the negative input and footprint of fashion. What we are trying to do at Co-Unconscious is really look at the bigger picture and see what needs to be, where the root cause of fashion is, and start there. So what we see is that even if we produce on-demand clothing and take away mass fashion from the equation, the materials that go in those on-demand produced clothing are still crucial to how much input resources go and how much output pollution do we derive from this production. So what we do is we start looking at the most efficient textiles that are also either recyclable or can return back to our environment in a friendly way. So this would be seaweed fibers, bamboo, lyocell, hemp, and more. So we try to look at those textiles as well as dyes, stitching technologies, dyeing technologies, and then enable smaller brands who really have the passion to put together a planet-loving brand and commercialize it. So we give access to a very efficient and friendly value chain, and then commercializing opportunity, which hopefully competes with what we have in accessible big names on the street and online.
Gosh, fantastic. Very well thought through entire value chain and sort of materials approach.
It's an incredibly complex problem, so we're trying to take it one step at a time, but we feel we have the right steps in place.
Excellent. Well, I wish your startup great success, and I do see startups as a natural collaborator with WWF, so
absolutely
hang in there. Pasi, would you like to ask your question now, or how do you?
Yes, thank you, Pava. Boriana, you lead the change in a very different sphere. So you're trying to bring the change in business. And this must be very challenging. And you are a young leader there, you are a young person there. And again, the same question to you is, what would you tell us how to empower and work with young people like you?
So at our company, our 3 values are know, care, connect. I definitely feel that through knowledge, once you know, for example, the fact that a single t-shirt takes more than 2,700 liters of water, 0.5 kilogram of pesticides, which are carcinogenic, it's hard, like once you know those facts, and this is just one minor fact of the many shocking facts about fashion, it's hard not to care. And once people care, suddenly they start to act. I mean, they're a little bit more thoughtful in terms of the ways they consume. So I would feel that the biggest step that an organization with such a huge voice like yours could have is make knowledge attractive. Try to communicate in a way that is friendly, that is fun, and that is easy and tangible to understand. For example, how we are trying to do this is through an impact calculator. For example, every single piece that we produce, we are very tangibly showing what are the water savings of it, what are the CO2 savings of it. And for example, we had a coral campaign, we would say, how many corals would this be able to preserve? I mean, the taking away the CO2 from this specific piece. And people responded fantastically. We have never had a more successful campaign. And just suddenly, once you associate protecting the environment with something that on the one hand, it's easy to understand, sexy to understand, but also is relevant to the person and can be made inherent to his own kind of profile or just to his own personality. I think this is where through change and action, well, action and change starts to emerge.
Thank you. Strong message. Be relevant and give people the opportunity to contribute in a way for them possible to implement daily solutions. But you mentioned also something very important. It's about shared values. And thank you for this. Because the values you listed, we have them also, although they are worded a bit differently. So it's about cooperating openly, it's innovating fearlessly, and it's listening deeply. So it's really common ground that I see here. Thank you for this. Pavan, over to you.
Thanks, and now across to Blaszka and your remarkable focus on waste. Now you actually run a waste-free restaurant. How can you do that? I mean, restaurants waste food by definition, right? Can you tell us some of the secrets of that?
Hi, everybody. I just want first to thank to everybody that I saw on the chat, being happy that my daughter is over here running around me and distracting me from time to time. How we run the restaurant, so we basically focus on 3 main pillars, if I can mention. So the first one is that the way products come into our restaurants is all waste-free. So we buy in bulk, we reuse the packages. The second pillar is how we deliver to our clients. Though this changed a little bit with the COVID-19, we use, again, reusable jars and boxes. So our clients and business clients as well, no matter how big the catering that we have to do is, they get it in reusable packages. And the most exciting thing that I consider the best part and the great advantage that our restaurant has compared to others is the fact that we have a huge compost next to the restaurant that we built with our own hands, so that we compost the food the right way, because it is not correct to throw the way with the general to throw the food with the general waste. I hope most of us today here, those 177 people, we all know this. So of course, composting, when it comes to food, for me, comes as a last step. So before that, we just try to use all parts of a fruit or a vegetable, no matter what it is, but we just try to use all of it and be creative. So this is what makes us a zero waste restaurant. And we really achieved it. It's been a year since we opened the restaurant, and we've been quite a success over here in Bulgaria, and a great example for a lot of people.
That is fantastic, and I'm sure you are an inspiration, not just to Bulgaria, but beyond, in fact, to other countries. Are you planning to open up elsewhere?
Well, my plan for the future, for the next 5 years, is to open more restaurants here in Bulgaria, because after all, I live here and my focus is here in this country. So I wish more places like this to pop up around the country, as we are not that small country.
Super,
so.
Super. Well done, and wish you great success. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Pavan, I suggest that we move on to Piotr now, also to be able to give the audience the opportunity to ask some questions. Yes.
Right. Okay, good. So Piotr,
let's connect to the field.
Piotr, what have you learned? I mean, you've really worked on the ground with people, with communities, and managed to change the way the government thinks and declare protected areas. What is the main lesson you've learned from the work and your success?
Oh, the main lesson is probably the lesson of cooperating with people that are not thinking in the same way as you are thinking, as I am thinking about nature protection, people that don't see why we should protect nature. So cooperating with them is the hardest part of success in nature protection, and I think I'm still learning to do that well.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it is actually, cooperation is one of our core values as well, and we collaborate very openly and widely. That's great to hear that. Pasi?
Pavan, are we having any questions from the audience so far? Or,
yes, well, we're getting a few audience questions, which I had asked in terms of Blaşka's expansion into the outside world, but she prefers to stay with Bulgaria. Are there more questions coming? Oh yeah, there's one for Piotr that's coming, yeah. What's been the best part of your mission? Question from the audience.
Can you repeat?
What is the best part? What did you like most about what you do, about your mission?
Oh. What is the best? Field work.
The field work.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm this traditional way conservationist. It is half of my work is this, trying to make reserves, nature monuments, and working directly in some local biodiversity hotspots. So this is the part I love the most, but the other part is educating people, and I'm trying to do it at a bit bigger scale in the internet, or not only in the internet, but I don't like it so much as being in nature, and I think we all should spend more time in nature to really love it.
You clearly love the real world more than the virtual world, from what I can hear. But that's no harm in that. There's a question here from the audience, which appears to be for Atlas, which is, how can WWF reach hundreds of millions of young people, of youth, and ask for their support and their action? How can we scale?
Yes. So WWF can give us the word, what they want to spread, and then we can teach people, or we can spread the word easily with the youth all over the world.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, please listen. This guy is actually volunteering to do that for you. Use his help. And there's a question same question actually for both two questions, both for Boriana and for Blaşka, two startup success stories, which is that how can the world scale up what you do? I mean, clearly managing food without waste is brilliant for a circular economy concept. Food waste, if it were a country, would be the third largest emitter after Russia and after USA and China. If this could scale, the impacts would be amazing. Can it be done? And so that is one question for you, and the same questions for afterwards to Boriana. So could you answer that for your side?
Yeah, I can answer. So of course, I believe this can scale. When I said that my focus is here in Bulgaria, it's obvious why I do it here in Bulgaria.
Sure, yeah.
How I see me sharing all the experience that I have. First, it was via the book that I wrote. So it's all about the zero waste life and how you can start living a zero waste life, and about scaling. I've been a teacher, so I am a lot into riding, and I know that this is a good way to get to people. Not the best probably, but it's a good way. So I've been trying to just develop a methodology that is really specifically telling you how to do it step by step. Super. And as we have all those online tools, I believe once I have it, I just spread it and it gets to whoever is interested in this.
Excellent. Excellent. These are all very good ideas. And Boriana, how would you scale what you do?
With fashion, the case is a little bit complex because to switch from status quo fashion to conscious fashion, there needs to be a business case. And currently the scale is so small that there is no such business case for people to adopt it faster. So what we need to do is at least what we are trying to do first is build a platform that by default is infinitely scalable. So we have built our business to be infinitely scalable. Number two is to aggregate the best players from around the world who genuinely provide very good transparency, efficiency, and then aggregate the demand for those solutions. So currently we have 3,000 brands in our pipeline. So they might be small by themselves, but once we aggregate them, we give them access to those really efficient, transparent, eco-friendly providers of textiles, stitching, and more, so that they can source and they can start driving the change. So how we scale, how change could scale is through really making a business case, and this is what our first year and now second is centered on.
Super. And one quick question for you, which is to share one of your secrets, is how do you actually track your supply chains to make sure that the lowest impact products are the ones that you select, because that clearly matters here.
This is probably the most important question because there is a huge amount of obscurity when it comes to the value chain. And actually today we're pushing forward an application for the European Commission to get additional funding for what we have been developing for the past year. It's called Ecosystem ID. So what we do is we actually communicate directly with a lot of the initiator factories for textiles, dyes, and more. We vet them, and once they're vetted and we know their exact impact, we attach a digital ID to each one of them. Next up, when the brands are sourcing from them, we know the exact source of what they're using, then where is it traveling to, where is it assembled, and where is it shipped to for a warehouse. We can track the entire life cycle of an apparel and know the attached kind of impacts on every single stage of its life cycle. So this is probably one of the biggest changes that we're trying to bring about in tracking the impact of the value chain.
Cool. Thank you very much. Do we have time for more questions, Alicia, or can we now ask?
Actually, thank you, Bhavan, for that. It would be a good moment, I think, to have a look at the graphic recording. Naomi, what do you think? Could you show us what you have captured from the conversation? Here we go. It's loading. It's creating a lot of suspense. What's going on there? Here we go.
Oh, look at that. Oh, wow. Okay.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
We are still working on this, so we'll still be adding more.
We'll be adding up pieces and bits,
Cool.
There's one last, if there's time for just one question. This time it is to Piotr, which is, what's been your biggest frustration, Piotr? What is the thing that frustrated you most in dealing with your work to get protected areas protected, to get areas protected?
No, the thing that frustrates me the most is that we are still damaging nature, especially in Poland. There is very often, for no case, this peatland that I am sitting now is being dried by a huge channel, and it is going on for some dozens years. But no one do anything here. So it is just drying for nothing, for emitting CO2 and methane instead of
conserving CO2 and absorbing it, which is its natural job.
The stupidity of destroying nature is the thing that
That is frustrating. Well, I can say that many of us share that with you, Piotr. But keep fighting it. That is the important thing, and that is the spirit. I would like to now, if you all have your certificates. So this is a virtual award, but with physical certificates. If you have them, do flaunt them, because you should be proud. You are selected through a fair process from a very large number of young people who've done amazing work, and you deserve the honor that we are able to share with you today. So congratulations to all of you. If you have your certificates, please raise them so they can be seen. Whoa, look at that.
We'll take a picture.
Yes. All of you raise the certificates, please. Yeah. Super.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this. Thank you. Pavan, any last remarks that you would like to have for the discussion?
Yeah, I think, I'm by background a finance person and an economist and an environmental economist. And we have this concept called intergenerational equity, which is, of course, deeply embedded in the very definition of sustainable development. But very often we forget that intergenerational equity is not a technical term. It is about young people. So it gives me great pleasure to be able, this is the best part of my job as president actually, to be able to recognize young people for what they're doing to protect our future. So once again, thank you to all of you for the amazing job that you're doing. Keep it up, stay in touch. And yes, we will leverage you, okay? So don't be surprised if we ask for collaboration because you're a startup and we recognize the value of startups, or because you're on social media and we can leverage your voice. So thank you, keep it up, well done.